good news. Last video, we did the staff meeting, and the staff is totally on board, and we're pretty excited. We're making this the next project. Yeah. New motor going in there, you know. And so there's the old Westerbeek. It's gonna be a
Bye-bye Westerbeek.
bye-bye West. But what a good chapter in your life. New motor, go sailing. It was inspirational. I like it. We're gonna, do it.
And the Westerbeek, I'm not degrading the Westerbeek. It's, the whole system's a good system, but it's not right for me where I am with my life right now. And that's why we're going to do a flip out. And I say a flip out is that we're gonna change this V drive into a sail drive. So, like we said, everything's facing forward. It's easy for maintenance, and
yeah, unfortunately, a lot of boat builders don't take maintenance into consideration, But we're going to get there. So the first thing we did is, I got to be honest, the videos lag a little bit of real time. We made sure it fit and got a deposit in because betas are 4 months out or more, and if that we're gonna do 3 videos actually before we get this thing started. We need to do a video on questions and things to think about on a repower. We're going to do a timeline video to make sure it's realistic, and an important one, the budget. So followers are thinking about maybe they would like a new engine, or our students, we want them to be able to estimate ultimately after they do a few repowers. And so I'm going to document actual costs just like we did with King's Pride. And so a couple 3 videos. So today we're going to talk about mostly the first thing, before we ordered it, does it fit? And watch this little clip. I crawled in there. Mike made a nice little cardboard template about the GRP base. And this is how high it comes. And of course you got to scarf it, cut it down for your particular hull shape and whatever to get it in there. And so look at this. The good news is it fits. And it's going to be a fun project. So the first thing is making sure it fits and whatnot. So Mike made a little template of the fiberglass base right here as cardboard, which will probably be cut down a little ways.
It has to be cut down quite a bit.
Yeah. But that's the angle, and it looks like it's a sweet deal. The sail drive will be somewhere right about where the existing strut is. Maybe between the strut and the old water lift muffler. We'll move the water lift muffler aft a little bit. But there's a bulkhead on the other side, and we'd like to keep the new motor...
A thwartship bulkhead.
Thwartship bulkhead aft of this motor mount if we could. And moving the motor back a little bit. This boat is light in the butt. So having a little more weight aft would be totally acceptable. And getting rid of these old plywood kind of engine bed stringers, they've served their purpose, but it looks like there's no reason to keep that. The new drive would be awesome. We could cut all that out and just glass in a new base and paint and start fresh. So let's check the height from here. And we got the drawing inside with the dimensions. So it's in my pocket. I got the tape measure. No wonder you can't find it. And as it sits, so from our cardboard, we're just going to get a reference here so we know. But the cockpit floor, it looks like we've got 19 and a half inches on top of this piece of cardboard where we sit. So we're going to go compare that to the drawings. Pretty sure they've done this before on boats like this. And that little beta should be a beautiful replacement for the old Westerbeek. So,
I think that Beta has made this base extra long, so you can scribe it into the hull, so it will fit without any patchwork.
Yeah, scribe scarf.
Yeah, so that's that's a good deal.
That's a good deal. So we know it fits. We think we ordered it, but now we gotta. Before we did that, there's a lot of questions you need to consider. Right? Like, first of all, how are we gonna get this thing out of here? So on Black Pearl, my old World War II Onan generator, ginormous. We ended up taking it out in like 4 pieces to get them to sizes that 2 humans could lift. You know, we had to separate the generator end and the cylinder head and da-da-da-da. So, there's a couple 3 ways probably to get this out of there, right, Mike? You've done
there's a couple of 3 ways to get this out of here. And one of them, of course, the first thing we need to do is to get rid of the fluids. We don't want to start lifting this thing out of here and start dripping oil or water or whatever. So we will do our best to eliminate all fluids inside gearbox and the engine. Other thing we need to do is to separate the gearbox from the engine and take the gearbox out separately. The next thing that we need to do...
Are the mounts on the gearbox or the motor?
The mounts are on the motor and not the gearbox.
Oh, so that makes it easy. So I can lift that. That's a sweet deal.
Yeah, the gearbox will come out by hand. Okay, if we were going to take the Westerbeek out with just the way it is, we would...
Kind of normally the way they do repowers. They
Right.
try to be as less destructive as they can be.
We need to make either a skid plate to slide it forward, or we fabricate a C-clamp that goes underneath the engine, comes up, and then goes out into the cockpit, so we can grab it with a pick, and then pick it up enough to bring it forward and then out. The other way we do it, which I'm in favor of, is that I eliminate half of the cockpit flooring and just take the whole thing up and out.
That's what I did back before I even knew any better. Had an old Islander 27, living on it in college, no money, and the motor needed a whole bunch of work. It was a Veery, the Swedish two-stroke single cylinder. Yeah, but it took me places.
Yeah,
I just cut the cockpit floor out.
I had a Vega 27 and sailed that for quite a while, and the cockpit flooring came out. As long as you seal it, it never leaks. Now,
there are some nice commercially available hatches, and it's an option. I don't know if it would fit in here. We could do some measurements, but I was at the Marine Expo, and I've seen boats. So if you're not a composite person and you want to save some money on your repower or get better access to your motor, which we did with another student's boat, is that there's some beautiful stainless steel frames, aluminum hatchwork that you could purchase. Kind of pricey though, and the look might not feel so good on your feet, which is important.
But if you have a teak cockpit flooring, well then perhaps that wouldn't wouldn't matter. If the reason why I'm in favor of cutting the cockpit flooring out is because there's a well gusher pump, a secondary backup pump for emergencies, I guess. I've never used it, but it's in the cockpit floor, and it's always been sealed with so much silicone. I've always worried about if I had to use it, how long is it going to take to activate it and get it working? So, in my opinion, cut the floor out, move the well gusher to the side where a lot of non-suchers have them, and then make a new cockpit flooring.
Perfect. I think that's a good plan. Getting the motor out and doing that. So with our clear expectations, if you're doing this with a yard and working with people, is getting a timeline. And we're going to do a separate video about the timeline and the costs that I mentioned. So, but a few questions that came up. Mike and I, it's winter time. We're down here, and there is nothing better than just dreaming about going out sailing in the summer, having a new reliable engine, going to Alaska, whatever, outside of Vancouver Island. But anyways, this is the perfect time to do it. But a repower is an interesting thing. If it's what we call, and I don't know that it's true anymore, but a half-life refit of a boat. That's what we did on King's Pride. You got a boat that's 30, 40 years old, half-life, all new everything, chain plates and rigging and, motors and da-da-da-da-da, and tanks. That's one thing. Repowers sometimes, Sean, Salish Marine, former student, he's doing a repower in our marina just down the dock here. Once in a while, it's a simple repower. And I say simple meaning the Yanmar, which flooded due to lack of maintenance on the vented loop. Another thing every boat owner should pay attention to on a sailboat. But anyways, it flooded with seawater. It's just to pull it out, put in the same motor. That's not too bad. Generally, though, what Mike and I are doing here is a full-on repower, meaning, and you're the exception of switching from V drive to sail drive, but it doesn't matter. When I did my boat, and we're trying to talk Art into repowering his boat, there's a lot of things, that you should consider. Engine beds that are punky, all sorts of stuff. It's not necessarily that simple. And one of the things that comes up is, in our classes, fuel systems, fuel tanks. Former Scallywag Frank is refitting a boat, putting in a different motor, and lo and behold, he found out his tanks are all leaking.
Well, yeah. Well, I had I think it was about 4 years after I bought this boat, so that would have been about 2014 or something like that. I started getting diesel fuel in my bilge, and working from the bilge back, I discovered that it was the fuel tank. And so, of course, I needed a new fuel tank. Fuel tank came out. It's quite simple on a non-such to take that fuel tank out. You need to lift up the hatch, of course, and then there's a teak combing that comes around the inside of the hatch that needs to come off, and then the tank comes out. I took it to a tank manufacturer, the tank itself, and said duplicate it. They did that, and bingo, I was back in business with a brand new tank that is 6 years old and installed now in the boat. So we got that covered.
Got that covered. Although, I want you to buy a new fuel filter. I spied your old one. Not good.
We will do that.
Okay. So, you had a primary filter and a secondary filter that made it for 40 years. But we want a Raycor with a vacuum gauge, potentially up here where you can see it when you do your daily engine room checks, and be able to change it. And an electric priming pump, like my tech tip video. So that when you put a new filter in, you can just push a button, fill it up, hassle-free. So.
Now, that's the one thing I don't know about the Beta. The Westerbeek, the 27, has a self-priming pump built in. So when you do change fuel filters, bingo, it's a done deal.
I think we're going to add one. I'm not sure the Betas have that. Everything's on the front, but I don't think it's self-primes.
Yeah, and we will add that.
Okay. Exhaust system. You did some research. Is your system going to work?
No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
The Beta 30 is a 2-inch out of the manifold all the way back, and I'm not sure, but I think the Westerbeek is 1 3/4 inches, because I redid the exhaust a couple of years ago, but I can't remember what size it was, but it's not 2-inch.
So that means hose, water lift muffler,
through hull,
out the transom.
Yeah.
Cha-ching. We'll get to our budget video.
Yeah.
Gotta budget a little bit for that. But how nice. New exhaust hose.
Yeah. Not worried about the through hull. All it is a piece of pipe and a couple of plates, and welded together, and we got it. So no sense shopping around trying to find something that will fit.
Yeah.
Make it yourself.
There you go. We can do it. Seawater, we don't know. Probably going to eliminate the old through hull because the sail drive will bring water in.
Correct.
And you talked about when you open it up doing your cockpit hoses and stuff. But probably going to, if it's larger diameter, you might need a new sea basket. They're a couple $100, but it does going to add to the budget.
Yeah. From my experience with the previous non-such that I owned with the sail drive, I'm almost thinking that the through hull on the sail drive is going to be somewhat smaller than what I have now. So it may be just a matter of fittings on the sea strainer, the current sea strainer.
That would be nice.
To reconfigure it and then remounting it up forward here.
Okay. Well, the other big ticket item is with a repower, and even if we a lot of times when people repower, they might add some horsepower, or modern diesels typically spin a little faster. They're lighter, but higher RPM is propellers. And so you typically, on almost all repowers, if your shaft is in good shape, you're lucky, knock on wood, but even with your sail drive, you're going to need to buy a new propeller.
Going to need to buy a new propeller.
And there's a couple of options, folding, feathering, fixed. You're a sailor at heart, so I know you're not going fixed.
Well, what I have now is a skipper, and I have nothing to compare it to, but what I've heard is that if you're going to do a fix, a skipper's good. Now, how good it is, I have no idea. I've had a folding, and I'm not too fond of a folding, especially in reverse, because, and actually going forward, I had a little ultralight with a folding, and I was going it goes so fast, you got to slow down before the motor works. And so what I'll probably do is a feathering with this, and my thoughts are is stay with the unit. Is that the Beta uses
I think max prop,
a twin disc. They use a twin disc sail drive, and then the twin disc. I think it's twin disc that makes the J prop, and so everything is twin disc all the way up to the Beta. And my reasoning for that is that if something isn't quite working right, or it goes sideways or whatever, if you start from the beginning and end up with what you started with at the end, it's kind of like, well, there must be a problem there. But if you switch something out in between, well, then they question what the switch up was.
Yeah,
so. Just like a paint system. If you're going to paint something, use the product all the way through.
All the way through. Yeah. I agree. So, lots of decisions.
Yep.
It's a good thing to do in the winter time.
Yep.
And speaking of that, is upgrades. So when you're going to do a repower, are you going to add more horsepower, different motor? But like you're buying the GRP base, which is an option, because I would never try to install this building my own framework.
No.
But there's options on the alternator, and I think the stock alternator for you, we talked about it, is fine. It's like 70, 80 amps.
I have
very modest. You got a 35 probably.
No, it's a 50 amp right
50.
now.
Yeah.
But with the solar energy that comes into the boat and the 50 amp alternator,
you've been fine. So 80. Yeah. We don't need to upgrade to 100, 150. So that, but you're going to add some hot water valves, so we can pull some hot water out of the motor to heat
the cabin while
you're underway.
Keep the wife happy.
Happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is spare parts. So if you're out there considering a repower, you buy a used boat, and this boat, you come with some extra stuff, filters and whatnot. But now that you're switching, we don't recommend anybody. Mike and I like remote cruising. We like to go way off the beaten path, and so you need to have some fuel filters and some other things. Maybe a couple extra anodes, whatever. So we'll order a few extra parts with the new motor when it comes to make sure that you've got everything on board that you need. I think you can buy a spare parts kit right from Beta, spare belt and, all of those things that you might need. So those are things that you should consider when doing a full-on repower like this. And what it means is, and now we're starting a spreadsheet. I'm going to document all the costs like we did with King's Pride on our website, cruiserscollege.org, if you haven't checked it out. And you will see, start to finish, what a project like this is costing the boat owner here. Mike, thank you for writing all the checks so that I don't have to. But you get the benefit, and I don't. So, well, I do, because we're going to do some sea trials and staff meetings. So.
Yeah. Yes, Mike is very, very right. Before you want to repower, you need to do your book work. You need to sit down and check prices, make a list, and see where you're going with this whole operation as far as a total end price, and if you can afford it.
Yeah. we're gonna do viewers, stay tuned. We need a couple more videos. We got to figure out a timeline. We got to figure out a budget, and then the fun begins. That's when our viewers can really watch us starting to dissect this boat, tear it apart, start to finish, until we're sailing here again when the warm weather hits.
And I am so excited about this. The fun part is actually, hands-on, getting down into the bilge, removing the engine, cutting the hole, filling the holes, and listening to the new engine.
Yeah. And having students around. Another shout out to Mike. If you're watching this and you're like, oh, fortunate working with a college, there's a huge heavy lifting that Mike is doing, because most of his jobs will take him at least twice as long, because he's an educator. We're showing students, like we say, like I said, I could lift this gearbox. I could, but Mike and I won't. We want students to experience this. They're going to be taking it apart, and it takes longer to explain how to remove it and to supervise it than to just do it yourself. But he's willing to do that so that our students get this experience, and he's willing to let these cameras roll through the whole process, so those of you at home can watch and really know what's happening if you're going for a repower. And that is very exciting to me.
Yeah, and in the important part of this process, not only for you as the viewers, but for the students, is the options. If you're going to repower, what are my options in repowering? Can I do this? Can I do that? Or should I do something different? And the students will be able to benefit from this project and relate to their customers once they get out into the field that, I've been involved in something that I can share, that we should go this way or that way. And so valuable for them to have this experience.
Perfect. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll get our timeline out to you. We're still working on Thor. We're working on Black Pearl. We got a lot going on at our school. Primarily just we got to keep ahead of the students, and so keep an eye out for the next couple of videos about timelines and cost. And before you know it, we're going to be dissecting this non-such 30.
And if you're not familiar with non-such, check it out.
Yeah, awesome boats. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.